Hi, it's Rob. We're on Grafham Water today, which is my home water. It's somewhere that I've fished since I was a child, so I should know it reasonably well. It's the middle of May. It's about 14 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning. So buzzers have already started hatching, and this time of year it's ideal to just fish buzzers. It's the best. It offers the best buzzer fishing of the year, and it also gives me a chance, or gives us all a chance really, of picking up some quality fish. So in the morning I'm going to start top of the wind where it's a bit calmer. Hopefully there'll be a few rising fish, and as the day warms up I'm going to drop down the reservoir to the bottom of the wind and try and pick some fish up there. So that's the plan. Obviously with it being warmer now, I'm expecting either straight line buzzers, or if the fish are really high, dial bachs on a floater, or perhaps the washing line on a midge tip. So I'm going to set 2 rods up and we'll see how we go. But looking at the conditions, it's warm, intermittent sun, there's a good temperature, there's a light wind. I'll be honest, we've got pretty much perfect conditions, so if I can't catch today, we're in trouble, I think. So the first rod I'm going to set up, the midge tip. Well, it's a 3-foot fast tip actually, an airflow 3-foot fast tip on the washing line, and it'll just give us obviously a spread of flies in the top 5 feet. So I've seen a few fish moving already, which is good because it gives us a lot of encouragement. I think I'll go with a 4-fly cast. There is a bit of colour in the water, I'd say. It's probably what, 3 or 4 foot visibility. Let's see. What's that? About 3.5 foot. So it's not gin clear. So I think for that reason we'll go with dark flies, just with a better silhouette. So it's going to be black dials, black muskins. So that's the plan. You know, after 45 years of fishing, I think it's good that I still get excited. I get excited most days, but when I see moving fish, obviously it just adds that little bit extra. Right, 7.12 Masterclass fluorocarbon, 4-fly cast, approximately 4 feet between the droppers. Which, when the visibility is only 3.5 foot, they're not going to see the flies, so it's not an issue. So as I said, we're going to fish the washing line. I'm putting a black foam daddy on the point. Obviously there's no daddies about, but a foam daddy just has that, it's just got that insecty profile. It looks like food. It's sort of an everything and nothing pattern, and it's just a wonderful fly for the washing line. The second fly up is a Muskin's, which is obviously like a buzzer shot. You've got a nice, you know, the breathers. It's a nice profile in the water. Then we've got a black pseudo dialback with a red holographic version. And then finally on the top we've got another Muskin's again. And the idea being, I'm basically going to cast this out and literally just hold on. Just let it drop slowly through the layers, just as the natural buzzer sort of rises and falls depending on the water temperature and the surface tension. So that's the plan. It sounds good. If we start getting them deeper, I'll go to a straight floater and fish either 3 nymphs, 3 buzzers, or 4 dials or something, just to get that spread of depths and fish a bit deeper. Okay, landing net. I'm going to need that. Right. What we got? Okay. Right, so cast across the wind, a couple of pulls, it'll create a bit of disturbance with the foam daddy, and then it's literally just a slowly figure of 8 and let the flies drop. As I say, we've got perfect conditions. There's a few fish moving. Tell you what, there's a fish moving now. I'm going to cover it. Yeah, these fish are very high in the water. The midge tip might actually go too deep, and I might need to fish the washing line on a floating line, but we'll see. So, obviously, because the fish are so high, I'm going to short line, because obviously the further that I cast and the slower the retrieve, the deeper the flies are going to drop. So I'll just short line. So in other words, sort of 3.5, 4 rod lengths maximum. And that does 2 things. Obviously it keeps the flies higher in the water because they're kept on an even keel as you retrieve. And secondly, it keeps you in direct contact. There's less bows in your fly line, and you're in a straight line to your flies, so your take should be more positive, and you will hook a lot more fish when you're fishing short. Obviously it's ideal for fishing nymphs, but obviously with lures you want to get the fish to chase, so your longer casts are preferable. But short lining, a couple of pulls to straighten it. Fish just moved. They want the disturbance, mate. There we go, straight away. That's on the second dropper. So I'm guessing this is on, well, it might be on the top. So on the dial back or the Muskins. There we go. Black dialback. First one. Happy days. Black dialback, short lined on a midge tip. I think we'd probably be even better on a floater if I'm being honest, but I'm going to give it a few casts just to see. Definitely as the day warms up they're going to come higher, so I think the midge tip will drop through too quickly, and if you're fishing too deep and the fish are above the flies, you're only going to get the odd fish as it drops through, and that 2 or 3 foot can make a big difference. There we go. So what I'm having to do, I'm having to retrieve the flies faster to keep them higher in the water, and you're trying to force a method to work. I know it's working of sorts, but I still feel the floating line is going to give me, going well, the floating line is going to give me more cuckoo. So we've got almost perfect conditions, haven't we? The fish are moving. That's took the point flight, I believe. Oh, let's get his head down here. That's a cracking fish. No, it's not, it's on a nymph. So the other thing you've got to do, obviously because I've got a 4-fly cast, you don't want your top dropper going into your rod tip, so you sort of subconsciously mark it so you know that that's the maximum amount of fly line that you can retrieve. There we go. Oh, it's a lovely fish. That one's took the muskins. There we go. Steady, steady, steady. Took the muskins. Wonderful. Right, as I said, I think these fish are even higher and I'm going to come up. Okay, so we've had a couple of quick fish on the washing line and the nymphs, and all those fish have been caught in the top 5 feet, and it's clear with the amount of fish that are moving, these fish are not deep. So it was my intention to fish straight line dials or straight line buzzers today. But obviously, if you do fish straight line buzzers, you've got 3 or 4 flies spaced equally on a, say, 13 to 18 foot leader. That means your point fly and the second fly up, are going to be 15, 16 foot deep. Well, that's out of the zone where the fish are feeding. It's pointless, and you're trying to force a method to work that probably isn't going to work that well. So that's why we have these different methods, and as I say, that's why we've got the washing line, and we can fish all 3 or 4 flies literally on the same plane and concentrate our efforts there. So it'll put 4 flies in the zone as opposed to 1 or 2. So because we're fishing sort of quite small flies on 7-pound tippet, I've gone for a 5-weight rod, which is a lot softer than I would normally use. I'd normally use a 7 or an 8, but this time of year when you get perfect conditions and you're predominantly fishing nymphs or dries, it's an ideal opportunity to enjoy yourself a bit and fish light. On this rod I'm going to keep the same nymphs on the droppers, because obviously they are working and they're good consistent flies, black dialbacks, muskins. I think the flies are right. I just think the depth, just by going up a line, we can improve our chances a bit. So that's what we're doing. I think because there's fish moving, I will put a hopper or a foam daddy on the point, for the simple reason it does give you that little bit of extra buoyancy. It holds the cast up, and when you pull it to straighten your line, after the initial cast, it creates a bit of disturbance, which often pulls the fish to your cast. So for me, it's a no-brainer, and that's what we'll be doing on this rod. The only difference is, as I say, we've come up to a floating line.
Just check if it's circle and not square.
Once again, I thought just going up a line would make a difference, and it has straight away. So we've just changed to a floater so I can keep my flies literally in the surface. I've got a fluorocarbon leader on, so that will drop down 3 or 4 feet, and I expect there to be a big difference in the amount of takes that I get. Oh, you missed it. So that's 2 takes in 2 casts. And that's the difference that just coming up 3 or 4 feet can make. There you go, 3 takes, 3 casts. That's on the point fly. Got it. Foam daddy. So just to recap, we've arrived, it's what, 9:10. We've got a very light wind because we're fishing top of the wind. We started off with, we've seen a few fish rise, and I started off on the washing line and was short lining, and we had a couple of fish quick, but I was having to retrieve reasonably quickly, figure of 8 back, to keep the flies high in the water. And it was always a case of that I was fighting to keep my flies literally in the first 2 feet. So despite catching a couple of quick fish, I thought the obvious answer is to change it up and put a floating line on, where we can slow the cast right down, fish the flies more naturally, but obviously hold them in the top 2 feet. And we've just had, was it 4 casts, 3 fish, and I missed one. And yeah, and that's the difference. That's I think the method now is, I'm pretty happy with the method. It's pretty much dialed in. And it's clear that once you go below the fish, you're not going to pick as many up. So obviously with buzzers and nymphs, your other methods, straight lining, your top fly is going to be in the top 4 foot, but after that everything else is going to be fishing deeper, especially with a slow retrieve. So in essence, 2 or 3 of your flies are going to be out of the feeding zone. So as a method goes, it's not really one that I'll persist with, and that goes for the bung or straight lining. So when you're faced with conditions like this, the washing line, you know, it is the ultimate method. Obviously the other advantage with a floating line, because it's holding the flies so high in the water, I can fish longer, I can cast at any moving fish. So again, it you know, it gives me distinct advantages. As the day warms up, hatches, depending on the water temperature, you'll get more hatches or less, depending on, you know, how the day goes. If we have a front come in and it starts to rain, there's a fish just moving. Oh, it's gone the wrong way. If it starts to rain, obviously that could knock them off, but normally as it gets warmer and you get more hatches, the fishing picks up. So in a flat calm, the fish tend to go round almost in circles. Once you've got a constant ripple, they tend to track in one way. I mean, it doesn't always, so once you see a fish rise in the wind, you can usually cover it accurately like that, and I'm hoping, cut the pulls straight and everything, it'll go tight in a minute. You'd catch these on dries, there's that many moving. At this time of year, you would expect the buzzers to be hatching. So even if you can't see them, the fish are going to be they're going to be in the water. They may not be actually hatching, but they're going to be there. So it's always a good bet at this time of year. It's always consistent. So I'd fish them, to be honest. What I would normally do is I would fish them straight lining. So I'd fish just 4 flies or 3 flies without, you know, the foam on the point. So it's not the washing line, because that way you're covering 3 or 4 depths, and you're again giving yourself more chance because your flies are at 3 or 4 distinct depths. Once we see all the fish this high, it pretty much makes your mind up for you. It tells you that, you know, they're showing you where the fish are. The feeding fish are in the top 3 foot. There you go. Oh. So, you know, they're doing all the hard work for you. You've got warm weather, beautiful surroundings, you've got a hatch on. You expect to catch fish, don't you? I've got 2 on. Right, so what you do if you get 2 on, net the top fish, because if the point fish runs, it will snap off at the dropper, and then you still have the point fish. So just hold on to that, pull it in, and there we go. 2. The first one. So what we just saw, or what just happened then, we see a couple of fish moving a pod. Obviously they rose sort of 10 yards from the bank, from the boat. You could see by the dorsal fin and the tail which way they were going. And they were coming down towards the point of the boat. So the other advantage with 4 flies, you can cover it quickly. So I covered them, just dibbled it, held it there, and because there was more than 1 fish, I'm in a tangle now, I was fortunate to get 2 on at once. Now when you get 2 on at once, the big thing is don't panic. If they go in opposite directions, it doesn't matter what breaking strain lead you've got on, there's a chance they're going to snap you. So net the top dropper, or net the dropper fly, the one that's closest, because then if the other fish runs, it hinges and snaps off at the dropper, so you can deal with that fish, and then even though you've had a break, the other fish is still connected with your line. And 9 times out of 10 you'll get both in. It's a new leader. I think it's worth explaining that obviously we're fishing dial bachs and muskins on a size 12 hook. Okay, now the big advantage these flies have got, when the fish are so high in the water, you've got sort of a hackle on the dial bach. It's a smaller fly, so there's less wire in the hook. It's going to sink slowly, so that fly is going to hold in the top 3 foot. Obviously your bead head buzzer and your traditional epoxy buzzer, what you would, these are types of flies that you'd normally use. It's a heavier wire hook, it's an epoxy fly that just literally cuts through the water quickly and gets to depth. So it's not going to hold in the top 3 feet. So that's why we're fishing the dial bachs and the muskins over buzzers. The buzzers sink too quickly and get too deep. And that 3 or 4 foot, as we saw on the midge tip, it makes a massive difference. Fishing's not difficult, okay? I think the most important thing is to be aware of what's happening, look at your surroundings, fish to the conditions. If there's any giveaways, i.e. fish moving, obviously they're telling you where they are, they're telling you the depth they're holding at. So, you look at all the key factors and work it out yourself. If the fish are jumping, obviously they're stressed, and the chances are you won't be catching them. But when they're head and tailing, pushing through the water, they're obviously feeding, and feeding confidently, which these fish are. So it's telling us, the depth to fish at. Got it. Found Daddy. So obviously we caught well in Valley Creek on the washing line, but they were mostly recent stockfish. May is the best opportunity to catch, quality grown on fish. So we've come down to Hill Farm. We've got the stones here where there's always a lot of shrimp, and there's an old road that comes out literally to where we are now. You can see it when it's really clear, and the road's sort of degraded, and there's sort of a 12 to 18 inch sort of hole under the road, and a lot of shrimps go into there. So it's an ideal place to fish, shrimp patterns, and try and pick up a better fish or 2. Right, so I'm going to start off. I'm not going to do much different, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I like a foam daddy. Again, I just think it's got that buggy, natural appearance. That'll be my point fly to hold everything up, because we're only fishing in 3.5 feet of water here, which may sound a bit ridiculous, but that's where the food is, and if that's where the food is, that's where the fish are. Because it's so shallow, again, I'm going to fish size 12, 2 holographic Nemos, red, and a UV cruncher. It's just a case of casting it out and holding on, really. I was just trying to pick up a better fish or two. I would say the majority of the fish stocked in Grafham tend to be between £1.5 and 2.25, with a sprinkling of 2.5 pounders. So anything over 2.5 pounds that's grown on and silvered up, I consider a good fish. And it's also nice just to have a change, isn't it? I mean, we were catching well over there. I don't think you learn much about the water or techniques just sitting on the same fish doing the same thing all day long. I mean, it doesn't really prove a lot, does it? It's nice to explore, find different methods, find different fish, and build up a picture of the lake as a whole rather than just one corner. You know, so many people just fish G-boy and that's it. And yes, it'll always produce fish, but you know, that's half the fun of fishing the big reservoirs. You want to go out and explore, you want to try different areas. They've all got their, you know, unique points. We might actually be too far out here, we'll see. I like literally to be 5 yards off the bank. The other thing is, in really shallow water, the fish always fight harder because they haven't got the depth. They've got nowhere to go. So once they're hooked, the only place they can go is away from you. That's a better fish. Oh, that's a nicer, cleaner fish. So that was straight away, that was on the UV hare's ear cruncher type. Well, it's a UV cruncher, you know, size 10 or 12. I mean, it's a great shrimp pattern. So with the shrimps, they actually move quite fast. You don't need to fish static. You can trundle them through pretty quick with quite a fast figure of 8. Oh, there's another one. Right on cue. So just get the top dropper literally the rod tip so I don't get it stuck. There we go. Another solid fish. I'd say the shrimp feeding really kicks off sort of mid-May. It starts, by June it's sort of in full swing, and it carries on all the way to late December, early January. And you don't actually need to be that quiet. You know, wading, when you kick the stones up or when you come in and out of the water, in the old days you always taught to be quiet so you don't disturb the fish. Well, with shrimp feeders it makes zero difference. You may as well just walk in the water, kick at the bottom, disturb the bottom. That in turn disturbs the shrimps, and it's like illegal ground baiting. It's known as the Grafham Shuffle. I'm going to suggest we just move and just try and work in the points, work in the same sort of areas, those areas with rocks, and just pick up an odd fish. The conditions are right today, it's warm, there's fly life about. We're at the time of the year where really, when conditions are right, such as they are now, you've got a very good chance of getting 3 to 4 pound fish. And if you fish the areas where there's less stock fish, you will pick those resident fish up. It's just that we haven't put enough time and effort in yet, so that's what I want to do. I want to get one sort of 3.5 pounds upwards, so we will see. Oh, that's a nice fish. That's a better one. It's a beautiful fish. Oh, come on, you nearly beat. Head up. He's nearly beat, just don't want to rush him because I'm only on light leader and he's already messed me up. There we go. Oh, he's still got some fight. You must be beat now. Got him. There's a few here. Just watch the water and you'll see it break. That'll do. pick them out here. So we're still trying to find that elusive, better quality fish. We've come up to the point of sludge, gains, as you will. Obviously on the point it's very shallow, a long way out. So you've only got sort of 4 or 5 feet of water. And the weed beds grow up very quickly. So it's an ideal spot to drift along when the wind's coming out of gains. And you can pick up resident fish usually. So we will see. Obviously there's good and bad points because there is a lot of weed, there is obstructions. So while you've got to be careful, it does give you an opportunity of some good fish. And it's this and savages, you know, they're very good fish holding areas. That's a better one. It's very weedy water and I don't want all my line out going through the weed. Or else we'll get tangled in the weed and then we will be in trouble. It's a better fish. But the problem we've got such a lot of weed that's coming up from the bottom. Oh yeah, that's a proper fish, that one. It's all tangled around it. Oh, it's a better fish, look. It's all silvered up. That's what you should be getting. You can see when you look at the difference between that and the other ones. That was a better one. It's the one we wanted. Mission accomplished.